Good morning. I'm with the Premier Nomsa Dube. I'm also joined by Emi Nkosi, who's responsible for human settlements and public works in the province. We are with the Deputy Minister Chwete and the Mayor of EThekwini, Mayor Kaunda. The intention when I came here into the province is mainly to go and hand over a Kanku housing project, which is one of the projects that we've been working on together with the province and the municipality. You'd understand this is a project that is meant to remove people from the old transit camp, or what we call our Lindela, to this housing project, which is one of the beautiful and successful projects that EThekwini and the province is delivering as part of our pre-presidential imbizo in EThekwini. Yesterday then we got the news of the disaster that has happened, and we decided together with the leadership of the province and of the municipality that we will start this morning, before we go to hand over the project of Kanku, start and visit the communities and understand the damage that has happened, but also learning from last time we were here when we had the disasters in terms of our response time. We've been to various communities, and the mayor will go into detail together with the premier. We've been to various communities. We've interacted with community members who told their stories about what has happened. Major of them, roofs have gone. Some of them in terms of completely damaged houses. In terms of the assessment, the teams, as you know, we have almost around 24-hour working turnaround time in terms of assessment, just recording where the disasters are happening. So the figures that we have currently are not solid figures or finalized figures. I'm saying that so that when you hear us starting to talk about so many number of houses or that, and later you see the difference in the numbers, you'd understand that because we've been on the ground quite early, while the team is on the ground registering communities. For example, the first stop where we went, the registration team had actually stopped to allow us to be there to visit the families before they can finalize the registration. Here in this hall as well, we were told that the number is almost around 150 and counting for the damaged houses. So this will call in terms of human settlements, partially damaged, and then there will be numbers of completely damaged, which they are still working on. But they had people in the hall, almost 36 people who slept in the hall. You'd understand that that is part of the work that we are doing to assess, get the figures, and then the interventions. From our side as human settlements, there are options, as you know, that from the 1st of April we took over the responsibility as national for emergency housing. What we have done, the team is already here, the DDG responsible for informal settlements and emergency housing, they are here. The team that works in terms of gathering data, but also soon to be joined by the team that does assessment. What we do, because sometimes with our eyes we look at the structure and we say we can just replace a roof, and you find only that later that the structural integrity has been compromised. So we do need professionals to come, assess, and then tell us. We previously introduced a system that is a voucher system in terms of partially damaged, where we give vouchers so that families can be able to replace where there are minor damages. If the structure is still intact and the roof, it's only what has been damaged, they will be able to do that. But also there are other issues that we are looking at: temporary accommodation, what we call TRUs, alternative building technologies, as I said previously, that we introduced as part of our response. The message to our communities is always the same. For example, we moved people out of what they call Cuba transit area, or linked to the Cuba project. When we moved with EThekwini and the province, the people there, then others went and studied, because there was a delay in the project, but also other complications. But then they started having other rental people who are there. The majority of them today are affected. So my message continuously says to our communities, please don't put yourself where we are saying it's not safe. Because this is what we are learning, that majority of those areas, it's where we are finding difficulties with the disasters. It's consistent, not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but across the country. where people place themselves, where it's not suitable for human settlements, then you end up with these disasters. And when we say that, it's not because we are not going to help them now, but we are just cautioning them because we are fortunate today. We don't have losses of life. I think they said 1%, but I can confirm. But normally we do have people who die because of these disasters. And that's what we are trying to prevent as government. To ensure that where people are not supposed to be staying, shouldn't stay, so that when this type of disasters happen, we don't have the difficulty. Climate change is the issue that we are dealing with, and that's why globally we fight to say, when people talk about the responses to climate change and climate change financing, they don't talk about resettlement of communities and households that are caused by climate change. And we'll continue that fight as the National Department of Human Settlements, as you would have heard me when I was at the UN Habitat raising this issue that sharply, that as global communities, we need to start pushing for financing of resettlement of communities caused by disaster, or what would have been the effect of climate change in terms of our communities. But I'd like to hand over both to the province and the municipality so that they can be able to give details in terms of the work that is being done, because it's a joint effort. This is DDM in operation, colleagues.
Well, we can take questions now then. Because the minister's covered everything.
Okay, Premier Jay Holzer from the SABC. Just a question to local government. We saw that the province was really battered with floods. It's something that many people will remember. I imagine this was very traumatizing for the community of Inanda and the surrounding areas. Can you talk about what's going to happen going forward with these? I think the minister said 150 community members that are being housed in the Amahoti community hall.
Well, thank you. As the minister has indicated, that we are here together with our teams that are doing an assessment. Only 36 people slept over at the hall. Others were able to stay at their houses. With the assessment that is going on now, we need to establish whether the people that are here do not have a roof over their head. So, and that's what's going to be the next step. The next step, when they are, their house have been totally damaged or totally destroyed, we will then need to find an alternative accommodation for them, a temporary accommodation for them. And we have been able, through the work and the initiative that the minister has indicated, to now introduce a variety of temporary, accommodating our people. So this is what needs to happen. And then the second part is that those that are partially damaged, with the assistance of the engineers and other technical people, we would then be able to issue the building vouchers. And we also wish to appreciate the minister through, again, her leadership. We've now been able not to restrict, the intervention in terms of just looking at the roof. There will be instances where somebody needs a cement, needs a door, needs a roof, and that then the voucher will then need to accommodate all the needs of those people that have had their houses partially damaged. And those that have been totally destroyed, those are now needing to get into the list of those people that need accommodation, permanent accommodation. But it will start with temporary accommodation, then they would move then to the permanent accommodation. So this is what is happening right now. And our turnaround time, as the minister has said, electricity department is already here. Water and sanitation departments are already here as well. The human settlement, the disaster management, all the teams are already here. And there will be a joint operations center meeting that is going to be happening now in the afternoon, where we will be getting an update report on the assessment so far, including other areas of EThekwini where people have been affected by those heavy rains. And from there, the intervention will then have to start following that report.
Can we just get a clarification from the mayor? Mayor, according to emergency services, one person has died of injuries suffered when informal houses were washed away in Cato Crest and 6 people injured. Have you got more information on this?
No, for now, that's what we have on our side. We are still conducting assessments. The Premier also directed the health department in the province, working with our local municipality health, to ensure that we check in hospitals. We have interacted with other family members who did indicate to us that their family members have already gone to hospitals, but only one life that has been lost. But to us, it's also big because we don't expect to lose lives. We always pray that whenever we are faced with disasters, we need to save lives of the people. But as a city, as the Premier has alluded to it, we have put our multidisciplinary teams on the ground, roads, parks and recreation, electricity, all departments, including the Department of Development, Social Development in the province, to render at least some therapy to families that were severely affected. But we also want to appeal to family members that let us not all come to this hall and register. We need to ensure that it's only those who were directly affected. Because if you experience that water flow to your house, for now you can start preparations to restore things as they're supposed to be, instead of saying that let me come here because I also want to get material. Material will only be issued after the assessments have been conducted to those who were severely affected.
Thank you, colleagues. When will they have it, especially with the community in Gassé to the move?
No, our teams are already on the ground, as the minister has alluded to it, that her team, they are already here, they've arrived, working with the province and the municipality. As soon as those assessments are done, the material will start be issuing to those committee members. So we are hopeful that as we move on with the visits to assess the damages, other committees will be starting to receive the material.
Maybe lastly, Inanda from Provincial. I'm concerned because there are some of the 2022 flood victims who have not been assisted. I'm referring to some people in Janga. I was there, I think, 3 days back. They've never been assisted. They said government only came, registered them, that was it. So some of them, they've lost their parents, they are staying in shacks, some of them buses or mama to help them with Amazons to build structures, but that was it. They've never been assisted. So when will they be assisted? I know now the focus is on maybe these people. So that's my answer.
Maybe let me come in there. What we have done as National Department in terms of all the disasters across the country, it was raised with us here, specifically in EThekwini. We had an incident whereby we had people that were in the halls and we requested them to register. But because others were staying with families, neighbors and all that, never registered. So the number then started coming back later. So the focus then started with the ones that had registered initially. We've done a recon. I mean, last night I had a meeting with my team for the entire country, where now I do have figures in terms of what has happened. The second layer would be for us to go back to National Treasury to request funds, because how it's defined in terms of emergency funding is that within that particular financial year, you must utilize that money. So because the financial year has ended, the province does have particular amount, I think about 36 million that is still remaining to be able to respond to those disasters, but we need to request Treasury to give us permission to use it because it's beyond the 31st. So it's called rollover, but they've not been forgotten. So we are doing that hard count. We've done that analysis in terms of the figures and all that. So I did receive the figures and the response with them. So we're working together with the province. We've taken that. It's not only here, and I can say openly because we don't hide information. Some of the disasters that we have, we've been able to track them even beyond 2021. So we had disasters of 2022 in other areas, and some of the areas are repeated. Hence, we're talking about proactively going forward to be able to respond and start moving people, because those areas are especially giving us signals with the geotext that you'll consistently have the disasters happening. with them.
I think probably just the addition to what the minister said, we have, particularly in Njanga, doesn't work, Chelimnyama, all of those areas, you would know them. They were even affected in 2011. We have made a call, even including making, even radio, announcement that those, because there are people who never went to halls, true. There are people who went to relatives, and probably when the teams went on the ground, they can't find them. And we've said those people need to come to the offices so that they can get their help. I know as well of the particular lady who lost even her grandma, but she doesn't want to live there anymore. She left that place immediately when the incident happened, and she stays somewhere else. And it's not easy then for the officials to track those people when they get on site. But we have been making announcements that those people that have not received any help, they need to come to offices, because we would not know otherwise. Because we've been able to account for those that are in the halls, those that we've put in temporary flats. We've been able to respond to others as well who've had their houses partially damaged. But as I say, there were people who moved out of the areas, and those, it does happen that they're not being able to get help. But we're still calling on everyone that if you have not received help, please come to the offices. There's a lot of Sizakala centers, there's a lot of councillors' offices, government department offices that are available for people to come and inform us that they've not been able to get any help.
Right. Thank you, colleagues. We are moving to Gangu.